Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday carry people. It's the Big Connector here for all your ADC needs, and today we're going to have a look at one of my absolute favorite knives of all time. It is actually the Manix 2XL. So I guess the XL stands for extra large, and this is quite a big knife. It's one of my absolute favorite knives. Of course, we've got the good old Lucky Toonie to give you an idea of kind of the size. We've also got a little bit of size comparison here too as well. We've got a little bit of a bigger knife here. We've got another one of my favorites. We've got the K2. So you can see here how big this stacks up against the K2. And then another everyday carry favorite, which some would say is kind of one of the direct competitors in the everyday carry world, which is the big daddy of them all, the Paramilitary 2. But you know what? I think if you put this Manix 2 XL in your hand and in your pocket, it is going to surprise a lot of people. It is actually one of my favorite knives. The one thing here is when you've got this Paramilitary 2, it's kind of a, it's a fairly good sized knife. And when you've got this K2 in your hand, you've got a big hunk of steel in there. But you're also not fiddling around here with this Manix 2 XL. It's a really, really big, solid, heavy-duty knife. I really, really, really like this knife. So now, the overall length, she's a fairly big knife, just under 9 inches, 8.94 inches or 227 millimeters. We've got a closed length of a little over 5 inches, which is 5.09 inches or 129 millimeters. And your blade thickness is 0.125 or 0.13, which is a smidge over 3 millimeters. And at 3 mils, she's a fairly thick blade all the way through the entire spine of this knife. When you have a look at something like the Paramilitary 2, you can see that even though at the base here they're very similar as far as the width on it, with the PM2 being maybe a slightly thicker here of stock, it doesn't seem like it. Right at the tip here, this is a very, very fine tip here at the PM2, and it just seems like the Manix 2 gives you just a little bit thicker throughout this tip area here. To me, it gives me a lot of confidence in this knife. Although you don't want to pry with these, they're a cutting tool. You're not going to worry about, I don't think you're going to worry too much about your everyday tasks snapping off the tip of this blade. Now, she's a tip up only carry, which you know what, a lot of the knives out there are tip up, tip down. This one here is a right-handed and a left-handed carry. And the really, really nice thing with this caged lock, it's kind of a ball bearing lock, is that it is ambidextrous. So if you're a left-handed person, I know there's lots of lefties out there. My wife's a left-handed person. Her K-bar, I had to switch the thumb stud over in it. But this one here, you can just pop over here to the other side, and then you've got a left-hand carry. And there is no tip down carry with this. And I'm okay with that, because I exclusively like cutting tip up. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if you guys will notice, but I actually had some friends over at East End Iron in Tabor, Alberta. They actually built this out for me and made this a tip up carry, because it exclusively came from Spyderco tip down. But I will mention that one of these days when I review that awesome blade. But all right, your blade length here, which is something that I like, is just a smidge under 4 inches, 3.85 inches or 98 millimeters, with a edge length of 3.36 or 85 millimeters. There's a ton of cutting length on this, and as you can see, I've got pretty much a mirror polish on this, and this is a wicked slicer. That's, my friends out in Boston that would say she's a wicked slicer, man. All right, so your steel, you're going to have an S30V steel, which is some absolutely fine cutlery steel. Great edge retention, great toughness, and great wear resistance, as well as it is stainless steel. So it is the knife steel that was made for the cutlery industry. Now, one that gets a little bit of a knock on here, it is a little bit bigger of a knife, so it's 5.2 ounces, so it's getting up there in weight. You know, there is some lightweight Manix out there with the Maximum steel on it, a little bit smaller knife. So if you're really interested in that small, lighter carry, then maybe this one's not for you. But I'm a really big guy, and I really like the fact that you've got a whole lot of handle with this. So you can see here, it really fits my hands extremely well, even with a set of gloves on there. And it also gives you the ability to choke up here too as well with that front finger trail, and it's got a fantastic thumb wrap. Like I said, this allows you to really kind of bear down into it. And now the jimping on the back here, some might say it's a little bit overkill, and I gotta say too, this at the bottom here a little bit, I know sometimes if I've got a tremendous grip on here, I think I might just take my Dremel and knock this down a little bit. Now you've got some G10 liners here, or G10 scales with some nested stainless steel liners, and I'm not sure if you can see inside here, but they are actually milled out. And I mean, they could probably be milled out a little bit more, but I guess you'd be looking at sacrificing some toughness with this, because this is an extremely tough knife. I actually put this through the paces. You've got a really nice thick backspacer here, which is solid stainless steel that houses your extremely tough caged ball bearing lock. Now, I just wanted to kind of go over that a little bit. So if you can imagine inside here, you've got like a little, if everybody knows, everybody has the Benchmade, like the Benchmade axis lock. So that is actually in the back of the Benchmade axis lock, there's what's called a omega spring, which looks like the Greek letter omega. Well, this actually happens to have a little bit of a shaft and a spring, so it's an extremely more robust system. I know that there was lots of complaints early on in that his lock's history of the omega spring snapping. I've yet to hear of anybody breaking the spring on this Manix 2. Now, conversely, with that toughness comes a little bit of stiffness. So, you know what? You can, I suppose. You know, I've seen guys out there, they've got the one-handed open with the Benchmades, and this one here, I think you'd struggle to do one-handed. So you got to kind of rest it in the palm of your hand and grab it with two fingers to close it up if you're going to one-hand close it. And it is a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit stiff, and I've had this knife for 2 years. I used it like hell for a year, and it is still you know, kind of stiff. So I like that in my real heavy use knives. That way they're not kind of bouncing around, but it's still got some great fidget factor. Although when I first kind of carried this knife and EDC it, the first days, going back to building a little bit of calluses on the tip of my finger and getting used to it all over again. But once I've carried this for a few days, it's right back at them, and it's a tremendous fun knife. All right, so like I said, yes, the G10, you know, I don't know what the heck G10 stands for, but it's pretty damn indestructible. So I just kind of want to kind of go through that. So like I said, you've got great ergonomics. You've got, you know, the large 14 mil spider hole, so you can open it up with a set of gloves on. This is a good knife to, if you've got some gloves on and you're cutting some stuff, you'll definitely be able to open and close this knife here with gloves on, and you'll be able to do a really good hard day's work with this knife. Now, just, you know, kind of some pros and, you know, cons for this beauty here. I'm going to say, you know, your pros are it's absolutely tremendous bang for your buck. Everywhere I see this knife, it is sub $200 in Canadian money. It's you know, $220 MSRP, sells, I guess, street price for around 180 or so, 185. I've seen it as low as 155. That's Canadian, so it's tremendous value for the money. You're going to get G10, you're going to get great stainless steel, you're going to get a great design, great ergonomics on a knife that's built in the USA, golden Colorado earth. The fit and finish on this was tremendous when it came from the factory. It was extremely sharp, the grind was very straight, and the centering was phenomenal on it. I just happened to put a little bit sharper edge on it because I love that mirror polish edge. Another one of the pros, it's a tough, hard use knife. extremely robust design with this cage ball bearing lock. It's got great ergonomics. It's very comfortable. Allows you to choke up. It's got a great thumb ramp. It's got a great front choil. One thing you may notice here about my knife is I actually put a little sharpening choil in there. A lot of my knives, I like putting that in. It just stops me from getting that belly. One of these days I'll do a video on how to do that. It's very, very simple with a little diamond file. But, so like I said, it's got great ergonomics. It's extremely well in my hand. It's a tremendous slicer with that full flat grind, that satin finish blade. And you know what? I think it's actually a really, really good looking knife. When people think of Spyderco knives, they think of that leaf-shaped blade, that full freight grind, and your ergonomics with the spider hole. And that really, really says it all. I think it's an absolutely fantastic looking knife. And it looks even better. I originally had this knife with the black on black with the DLC coated blade. And I really, really liked it. That was I think my third Spyderco I got was this one. But alas, I lost it in Calgary. Bad as me, but you know what? Stuff happens. And then the final thing, pro for this is it's a big guy's knife. So if you're a big guy like me, like I'm 6'3" and 270 and I got big hands, I think this is a tremendous knife. It fits in my pocket really well. I know that when I know I've got a good hunk of steel in my hand when I use this knife, and I know I'm going to have some fun with it. So now, have a look at some cons. The ball bearing lock, I guess it can be a little bit of a con if you're not used to it. Like I said, it's a little bit stiff, and it takes a little bit getting used to, especially if you're coming over from a Benchmade. I know that Benchmades you can close with one thumb, and they're really, really easy to press. This, I think I would sacrifice that easiness to press for the robustness. I certainly don't want my knife failing on me when I close it, that busted spring. I certainly don't want that. Another con here is it's a little on the heavy side at 5.2 ounces. It just seems like it's a big 5.2 ounces too as well. When I put this in my pocket, a pair of jeans, I know it's there and I can tell it's there all the time. And if I'm wearing, say, a pair of elastic band shorts, this isn't the knife to put in my pocket because it gets me a little bit of the old saggy front. And the other thing here is a little bit of a con is it's a little bit thick this way. It's well over an inch. I mean, so you're probably about almost 2 inches in height here. So when you do put that in the pocket, it takes up a lot of the pocket. Although when it is in there in the back, there is, it is a nice design here. There's nothing to snag on, but like I said, it is quite a bit thick with that large 14 mil spider hole. And the other thing is with this ball bearing lock on here, it's a little bit harder to maintain and take apart. Now you can just, maintaining it is not that difficult. I mean, you just oil in your top here. You make sure you oil in your ramp surface here too as well. I always like to make sure that I drop a couple of drops of nano oil in there too as well. But I have not taken this knife apart. I know that there's a few videos online. Nick Shabazz does a really, really good job showing you how to take this apart. And it just seems like it's a little bit more than I'd like to mess with. If there was some grit and grime in this knife and it was really crunchy when I opened it up, I certainly would take it apart. I wouldn't super fear to take it apart. It's just not, there's just some knives out there that you can whack apart in a few minutes. You can clean it all up and have it back together. The whole thing job done in less than, 5 minutes or so. I just think this is a little bit longer than that particular time. So that's the knock on it. Now, my big Canucker score on this knife, you know what? I'm going to give this knife a 6.5 out of 10. But a little bit of a caveat with that. If you're a bigger guy, I think that's a bigger 6.5 out of 10. I still would really, really recommend this knife. If you like bigger knives or you're a big guy looking for a knife that fits you comfortably, I think this is definitely something that you want to put in your collection and put in your pocket. This just may not be the knife that you want to put in your Sunday best and head to church with. So that's why it's got a little bit lower score out of 10, but still definitely I recommend. Definitely something that I would put inside the collection in my pocket. Again, if I lost this knife, it's tremendous value. It's extremely fun. And I think that's something you'll definitely want to put inside your pocket. All right, so I'd like to thank everybody out there for their time, and if you like this, please like it and subscribe. Also, please, you know what, keep your stick on the ice, the shiny side up, and the pointy end away from your bits.